having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Paddy Daly.
Well, all right, and good morning to you. Thank you very much for tuning into the program. It's Tuesday, June the 24th. This is Open Line. I'm your host, Paddy Daly. David Williams. He's produced the program. You'll be speaking with David this morning. When you pick up the phone to give us a shout to get in the queue to get on the air. If you're in the St. John's metro region, the number to dial is 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. So a little bit of local rugby update for you. So this past weekend we had four lads from Newfoundland and Labrador who were playing for the Atlantic Privateers. They defeated the Ontario Blues in the Canadian Amateur and Semi-Pro Senior Men's League. The game took place in Halifax. For the locals are Jack McCarthy, Jimmy Clark, Evan Martin and J.S. Cook. Congratulations to the lads. It's important to mention it today because it was 30 years ago today that South Africa defeated New Zealand in the final of the 1995 Rugby World Cup. So South Africa, this was the first major sporting event since the end of apartheid, and of course to win in front of their home fans was monumental. Mandela on hand presents the trophy to their captain Francois Pienaar, and of course he is the godfather to Pienaar's children, which is also fascinating. Going through the round robin, the Springboks, representing South Africa, they beat Australia, Romania, Western Samoa, and France, and Canada. In the game against Canada, if anyone is familiar with the 1995 World Cup, the second half was basically a brawl. So the captain of the team at that time was Gareth Rees, of course Hall of Famer, and he's now the media manager for Canada's team at the Rugby World Cups. And one of the finest athletes this province has ever produced, certainly the greatest rugby player we've ever produced, is Prop Rotsnow. He got ejected in the second half, as a matter of fact. He and Springbok hooker James Dalton got booted out of that particular infamous game. Anyway, congratulations to the four lads here playing for the Atlantic Privateers. This evening in Ottawa is the Professional Women's Hockey League draft. I don't know how many people from this province are eligible for the draft, but I do know Abby Newhook is one of them. So good luck to Abby. Hopefully she gets selected here. Not everybody who's eligible will get selected, but hopefully after a fine career at Boston College that Abby will find her way into the ranks of professional women's hockey. Let's hope so. All right, congratulations to the organisers of the largest street hockey tournament. Who doesn't love a bit of street hockey? It was in Bay Roberts this past weekend. So the numbers are absolutely massive how many games took place. So on the first day, 400 games alone. 8,000 people passed through the tournament grounds over the course of just one weekend. That is a massive event. And of course, next to the Newfoundland Labrador Summer Games, took place in Bay Roberts last year, this one is one of the busiest events of the year. Bravo. Okay, let's keep going. All right, so we all see what goes on in the parking lots. People are simply oblivious to a lot of things, whether it be parking in handicap zones, whether it be parking in fire lanes. And this one is a cautionary tale from personal experience. Pick a big box store, and in this case, it was Kent. I was at Kent on Saturday, and you know when you have these big parking lots with the parking spaces that face each other, you see people cutting through parking spots all the time. Whether it be in an effort to get out of the parking lot, get into the parking lot, as opposed to backing in. Some people will drive through one spot to land in the next one so that they are facing out. So there was this lady who had a baby in the cart, or a toddler, and then it looked like it could be about a 5 or 6 year old boy was in front of her, and of course kids are a bit carefree, so the little boy was ahead of mom who was pushing the cart. There was a big van parked in one of the parking spaces, and Bucko in the white SUV is going through the parking spaces as opposed to backing out and proceeding on in a safe manner, going through the parking spaces, and it was just by sheer fluke that he didn't hit the kid. I mean, missed him by a whisker. There was people roaring for the SUV to stop because I could see the little boy, and he was right in line to get hit by that car. And whether or not the boy stopped because there was people yelling and or the vehicle slowed down, whatever had happened, we just got lucky that we weren't having to call 911 because a little boy was on the ground after being struck by a car doing what you're not supposed to do, which is completely illegal. So just a cautionary tale that parking lots, there's so many cars that are stopped, but the ones that are moving, there's people moving everywhere. We've got to give people who are on their feet a chance to be able to proceed to or from their car in safe fashion. And that one, my heart was in my throat, and like everyone else who saw it, completely rattled. So just a cautionary tale that those types of things can happen. All right. Last week of school in the K-12 system, we did mention yesterday that the government has, in the most recent budget, $20 million for 400 new positions to be filled. What's not on the list is speech therapists. I'm telling you. It's every single day since this speech therapy news made the media that I get from a family a note about their wait time for assessment and then consequently the wait time for treatment. If you see the emails that I see on this front, it's absolutely unbelievable what's happening. So the question for the minister responsible at this point is Bernie Davis, is how and why are speech therapists not being added to the fold inside these 400 new positions? If the same number of speech language pathologists have been working for the school district, or for the Department of Education, I guess, at this time, hasn't changed in 30 years, and yet the issues have changed, and the numbers of people looking for said support have changed, then what's going on? Then, you have to also ask about what's the big uptick in people needing speech language pathology and therapy? It's a good question. So whether it be, I heard Dr. Janine Hubbard here on the VOC Morning Show yesterday, talking about it's a good idea to reduce screen time over the course of the summer. And it's easier said than done for many families. And this is by no means me giving any sort of preachy objection to how people parent, because it's not easy. There's no handbook. There's no textbook. It's extremely tricky business. But one educator, in this case, a primary teacher, saying that she really firmly believes that some of these speech skills that are lacking and or listening skills are lacking is because we probably do rely on screens an awful lot more than we used to. Look, life is busy. And gone are the days, for the most part, where one of the parents can stay home full time. Unless you're a seriously huge earner, it's just not reality for most families. So what's going on so that so many people need speech therapy? I think there's also interesting questions about, you know as well as I do, is just how many children have allergies. I mean, how many businesses and schools are nut-free zones, or can't have kiwi or latex, or whatever the case may be. So some of that goes back to a much cleaner environment. The way we approach hygiene is completely different than it was decades ago. So that's contributed to it. And on top of that, there's a direct link or correlation between a vitamin D shortage, what's the right word I'm looking for? A vitamin D deficiency, and creation of allergies. So, those are big questions. Why do so many people need speech language therapy? And that's not me looking down my nose. In fact, I'm really full-throated supporter of the government trying to do better on this front and put more speech language pathologists into the public sector. But between that and allergies, it's an interesting change in the way people operate. All right, and one of the more underappreciated professionals in the province or in the world these days is teachers, which I don't know how that happened, but they are absolutely undervalued and underappreciated. I want to say good morning and congratulations to the recipients of the Premier's and the Minister of Education's awards. Angela O'Brien, Prince of Wales Collegiate here in town. Sarah Barry, Holy Trinity Elementary, Torbay. The Minister of Education award recipients are Heather Cole-Tilley, St. Joseph's Academy down in Lamaline. Janice Spencer, Cornerbrook Regional High. Luce Landry at École de Grand Vent here in town. Matthew Hiller at St. Teresa's in town. Sherry Marr, Cowan Heights Elementary in St. John's. Valerie Shepherd at Peacock Primary up in Happy Valley Goose Bay. And Paula Courage, Beachy Cove Elementary down in the Cove. All right. The issue, look, again, huge supporter of young athletes, and of course, absolutely for those performing at an elite level, set to compete in the Canada Summer Games, and good luck to all. Get a ton of pushback here about the decision made by the city and the provincial government to offer paid leave. And when you talk about the province offering up to 6 days of paid leave to volunteer in the Canada Summer Games, you got to believe the impetus is just trying to drive that final stretch to get to the 5,000 volunteer target, which I believe they've achieved. 500 volunteers came forward as a result of getting the paid leave. It's not going to be a CRA issue, but it's going to likely be an Auditor General issue. Now, it has happened in the past when the games were held out in Corner Brook, but it's not striking the right message with some of the other volunteers. And once that story became part of the public discourse, I don't know if they've lost any volunteers, but my email inbox sure reflects people think that it's a difficult way to proceed with the other volunteers who scheduled their own personal vacation time or time off from work simply to volunteer in the games. So we can take it on, and I'm not begrudging anybody who's able to take advantage of that. And God knows we needed the volunteers, but that's not striking the right chord with some. Also on top of the games, we can talk about preparation and legacy and infrastructure and volunteers and the amount of people that will make their way to this province as a result of hosting the games. One thing that does not get much attention, though, is performance. So the athletes themselves, they want to perform at their very optimum peak level, whether it be personal records or maybe take a swing at being in the medal round, maybe find yourself a spot on the podium. Every time that we bring that up, because we don't perform very well in the national games, when we talk about results, and I mean medals, personal best, fantastic, but every time it's being brought up, it's like undue pressure on the athletes. The athletes themselves already have the pressure that they create of themselves. They want to do well. They want to absolutely have their best performance in their lifetime at the big events like the Canada Summer Games. So last time we brought it up as a result of not doing very well at the most recent games is how dare we put any pressure on these teenagers. The teenagers already have the pressure on them. And I hope that we do indeed have some good results. Personal bests are fantastic. Step on the podium would be pretty nice. What do you think, especially as host? Anyway, you want to talk about it? Let's go. All right. So here we go with the summer, and so swimming and boating. I'm not going to pick up on one tragic story in the media, and deepest condolences to the friends and family who lost a loved one who was out in a small boat and a motor out on the ocean. The conversation here is about life jackets, and this is not nanny state stuff. This is just, I think, more common sense. Transport Canada had a petition out some while back. I'm not sure if it's still open or it's been closed at this point, but it was about personal flotation devices, life jackets. The current mandate from the government is that there has to be one life jacket per person who's on or in a boat. But you don't have to wear it. It seems like one of the strangest things of all time. So some people wear a life jacket religiously, would never dare to go out on the water, whether it be in a little small pond or certainly out on the ocean, without wearing a life jacket. It's time for Transport Canada to change that. And that's not the government getting into your business. I want the government to stay out of my bedroom. I want government to stay out of my affairs as much as possible. But how many people drown simply because they don't have a life jacket? And experienced swimmers, to use that as a default to convince yourself you don't need a life jacket can be a fatal decision. So just with the swimming and the boating and the summer activities, maybe Transport Canada will pay heed. It looked like the petition was being signed by thousands upon thousands and thousands of Canadians to encourage a change of that particular rule, which makes sense to me. And of course, here comes the summer, and thank you very much to the federal government for letting us go out Saturday, Sunday, Monday to get a few cod. We can talk about the recreational food fishery. See an interesting story in the media about lobster exports that are landing in Spain. Good news. There is a cold storage facility that's going to be built out at Gander International Airport, which is also a very good idea, and it's going to be able to house a ton of seafood. So let's see here. Announced back in March of 2023, price tag $10 million. It's going to be able to store more than 75 ton of fresh or live seafood. My question would be, remember back when all the ballyhoo and the pushback in this province about the country signing on to the Comprehensive Trade Agreement, CETA, with the European Union? One of the big deals as it pertains to this province is we had to give up our minimum processing requirements, the MPRs, which has consequences. So what really happened to all this? Because remember at the time, we thought there'd be some financial compensation coming to the province because we agreed to give up our MPRs. And then the feds at the 11th hour push back say, oh, no, there hasn't been the required math to back up what the losses might mean to the processing sector here as a result of dropping MPRs. And now, when we're talking about diversifying trade, there's a huge market outside of the United States. You can't satisfy all said diversification over the course of 1 year or maybe even one presidential term, but good news to see that we're going to expand the markets much deeper into the European Union. And that cold storage, I think when I speak to people in the fishing or the fishing sector, they think that is excellent news and a great development. But off go the lobster, and a big load of it too, 8 ton flown from Gander last week, and it's the first time the province's fishing industry has been shipped from Gander to the European market, according to one said exporter. So you want to talk about that particular issue? Let's go. All right, a couple quick ones. So I see in the news, Justice Peter O'Flaherty has so-called thrown the book at the apex of the cocaine trade here in the province. 10-year sentence. Even the Crown was only asking for 7. So the conversation here is not only about just how easy it is to get your hands on illegal drugs, illicit drugs, including cocaine, it's just how pure it is and just how dangerous it's become. So when Justice O'Flaherty tries to bring all of those societal ills into his decision regarding the 10-year sentence, it's pretty important for people to be aware of. Today's cocaine is not your grandfather's cocaine. It is extremely pure and consequently extremely dangerous for some. So be careful. In addition to that, every now and then we get a call from someone who's talking about different treatments for different issues, and in this case, PTSD. Every time that I talk about it, some people really come after me pretty aggressively via email, but it's an important conversation. In this case, we were talking about ketamine. Now, ketamine has long been used as a horse tranquilizer, and it's an anesthesia that's well understood in the medical care system, but it can be effective in treating things like PTSD. So every time we bring it up, we're not encouraging the party drug usage of Special K or ketamine. We're talking about the fact that it's helping people, and it's delivered by a doctor in a clinical setting with a medical purpose, not to be consumed because someone gave you one on George Street on Friday night. That's not the conversation, but I got a couple of emails overnight. I don't know what triggered it. Maybe they listened to an episode from one day last week where that was part of the discussion. But people say that we're enabling or promoting drug use. When it came to the ketamine, we were talking about it being offered at a clinic, a healthcare clinic, by a healthcare professional. So probably a bit of a different conversation if you ask me. But anyway, so here comes the NATO summit, a lot of which will be in an effort to placate the American president. It's extraordinary that this year the government of Canada has pledged to spend an additional $9.3 billion to bring us to 2% of GDP on defense spending. By the time this week is done, we're very likely going to be looking right down the barrel at 5% of GDP. It's an arbitrary number, as opposed to making sure our military is equipped with the best possible and the best training and the best equipment. Just plucking that number out of thin air, just imagine the amount of money that's going to have to be spent. And look, we know that the military in this country is woefully unprepared. And that's not the military's fault. That in large part goes back to the government. It's been underfunded and consequently not prepared to be deployed, which could indeed happen, who knows how and why and where. But 5% of GDP just sounds like an outrageous number to simply placate one person. That's it. Anyway, you want to take that on, we can do it. A couple of quickies. How are we doing on the phone, Dave? Interestingly, it was on this date, June 24th of 1880, that Canadians first heard "O Canada." It was sung in Quebec City during the celebrations for, coincidentally or curiously, they were celebrating Saint Jean de Baptiste Day. And now, of course, the relationship between Saint Jean de Baptiste and the celebrations of Quebec versus the sovereignty of the nation is always questionable. But the first performance took place at a banquet field at Le Pavillon de Pantineur. That's probably a very poor pronunciation, but there you go. First time we heard of Canada, June 24th, 1880. We're on Twitter. We're VOCM Open Line. Follow us, sir. Email address is openline@vocm.com. When we come back, let's have a great show. That can only happen if you're in the queue to talk about whatever's on your mind. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Good morning, Nicole. You're on the air.
Hey, Patty. How's it going?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm calling today because I think when we spoke a couple weeks ago, I was talking about the disability tax credit, and I left a phone number. And my phone has not stopped. It's been great. I've talked to so many people. But I thought I'd give you a call and just kind of go down through what the disability tax credit is and how it relates to the new Newfoundland disability benefit.
Well, I can't tell you how many times I've given out 729-2638 since you called.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of calls. It's been great.
No question. And if you go to the government's website, I didn't this morning, but the last time I looked, they say something along the lines of, due to an uptick in volume, there's a delay in processing. So Canadians are understanding more and more what the disability tax credit is, and that's where everything starts when you talk about funds associated with disabilities. And so people are figuring out that, hey, I'm probably eligible here, and thankfully so. They're applying for it.
Exactly, and I'm hoping that the wait times won't be too bad, because it is a little bit of a process. If you're first starting to apply with the disability tax credit, I'm getting a lot of calls, and people are saying, I have this diagnosis. Does that mean I'm eligible? But you got to kind of change your thinking, because it's not diagnosis specific. It goes by a bunch of different categories, so like vision, speaking, hearing, walking, and there's a couple more. And basically how your diagnosis or your impairment impacts these different categories. So that means it doesn't really matter as much what your specific diagnosis is, more about how it affects you in your daily life.
And it's, things that maybe people don't understand or consider that could be viewed as a disability. Issues with dressing yourself, feeding yourself, issues with speaking or hearing or vision. So there's a lot to this.
Like, yeah, I've had a couple of conversations now, people with arthritis, and I said, well, how long does it take you to, say, button up a blouse or put on your socks? And then once you kind of got those ideas in your head, then you got to go to the next part, and it talks about a severe limitation. And this means that it takes you 3 times longer than someone without an impairment to do something. But it's all those pieces that you just said, putting on your socks, getting dressed, feeding yourself, all of those little instances add up and should be shown on your application.
And there's a threshold here where they talk about the conditions, 2 or more, exist all the time or most of the time. I think the benchmark is in and around 90%, and that even includes if you're using medication or any sort of therapy or any sort of supportive devices.
Exactly, yeah. So you can apply under one category, or it could be 2+ categories, but they're looking for the same thing. It takes you 3 times longer than someone to do something. It's there 90% of the time, and it lasts 12 months, or is expected to last another 12 months. And one thing that I'm noticing, too, is that's the language the CRA is looking for. But that's not always the language that your doctor will write, because your doctor is saying, this is the diagnosis, this is how it impacts someone's life. So people's applications could be denied just because there's some miscommunication between medical practitioners and the language the CRA wants.
Absolutely. And I think most medical practitioners are probably familiar enough with this so they understand what's required of them. I just pulled it up because I think this is also important. No question there will be people thinking and saying to themselves, if only I had a family doctor. And fair enough. Yeah. But there are a bunch of different medical practitioners that can certify your impairment. And I just dragged it up. I just want to put it out there for folks. Medical doctors are qualified to deal with all the aforementioned impairments. Nurse practitioners, same thing. Optometrists can indeed be involved to talk about your vision concerns. An audiologist for hearing. Occupational therapists for dressing or feeding or walking. A physiotherapist. Psychologist. Speech language pathologist, which we talk about a lot these days. So all of these healthcare pros can be involved in filling out your disability tax credit application.
Exactly. And another point, too, that I pulled off the website is that people with type 1 diabetes, they meet the eligibility criteria under life-sustaining therapy. So that's another thing that sometimes people don't think of, that diabetes is also something you could apply for the tax credit for.
Fair enough. So you say your phone's been ringing off the hook. Just give us a roundabout number. What do you think that is since we last spoke?
Probably gotten 50 calls.
No question.
Some emails. But it's been really good because I've been talking, because it really is confusing, right? So we're talking about the disability tax credit. And why that's so important right now is because starting next month, there's a new Newfoundland disability benefit. And that could be up to $400 a month for people who qualify. So, but the first step is getting that disability tax credit piece. And then following that, people between the ages of 18 and 64 and who have an income under 42,200, I believe, 42,400 are eligible then for that $400 a month.
Yeah, there's also a a specific savings plan associated with this too, the Registered Disability Savings Plan, I'm pretty sure it's called. That's going to begin this January. So first things first, as Nicole rightfully points out, everything starts with getting the disability tax credit. You won't qualify even if you're eligible based on income or what have you. If you don't have that, you're not eligible for anything.
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie. I don't love this system of using the disability tax credit as a benchmark because, like you said, a lot of people don't have access to medical practitioners, or the forms are confusing, or it's just inaccessible. I've spoken to a lot of people trying to navigate that system. But as it stands right now, the disability tax credit is what opens all the doors.
Yeah. And for the Registered Savings Plan, it's an annual contribution. I think it's $1,200. And once again, but that has an age restriction as well. I should bring it up so I'm accurate here. Between 18 and 49. Yeah, okay. Yep.
Yeah. And that's really good too because we did the math on how the compounding interest works. Like if you only go with what the government's putting in every year, as time progresses, that's actually a pretty good nest egg for when you reach retirement age.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing important to point out, if you do have your federal disability tax credit, you do not need to do anything to qualify for the Newfoundland and Labrador disability benefit. It's just going to come.
Yeah. So I spoke to the Disability Policy Office, and they said people who are eligible should be getting like packages in the mail that explains everything. Hopefully early next month. I've heard a couple people might have gotten them already, but I haven't confirmed that. So these packages should be out sooner than later.
Yeah, that's good news. Appreciate the time this morning, Nicole. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm going to give you another number.
Okay.
This can reach me directly here because I do feel like, we're talking here and it can go super fast. And I really want people who are eligible for this to be able to connect to it. So you can give me a call at 729-0126.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Patty. Have a great day.
Same to you, Nicole. Take care.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. Let's get a break in. Don't go away. Welcome back to the program. Well, Shani Duff is a former councillor, deputy mayor, acting mayor, and mayor of the city of St. John's, and joins us on line number 4. Good morning, Shani. You're on the air.
Hi, Patty. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for asking. How about you?
Well, I'm very concerned and upset about Bannerman Park, and that's why I'm calling you this morning. And my concern is not as all the things you just read out, but as one of the founding members of the Bannerman Park Foundation and the co-chair of that foundation, when we raised millions of dollars to revitalize that park, which had been neglected for many years. And now I just feel that putting a bus, I think, or not a bus, but a huge electric sign about the size of a bus in that park is really a mistake. I think it was an ill-thought-out decision, and I'm very upset about it, and that's why I wanted to talk to you this morning.
Yeah, I'm glad you called. Just so folks know exactly what we're talking about, this is the proposed St. John's landmark sign. It's going to be some 6 feet high, 38 feet wide, illuminated with different colors through the letters of St. John's. I mean, these things are everywhere, but they're not in places like Bannerman Park. I saw one person on social media put it the exact way I feel. It's not about the cost of the sign necessarily, but Bannerman Park has a very purposeful, unplugged vibe. It's very organic, it's very natural, and this thing seems anything but.
Well, you couldn't say it better. I mean, I know it's a very expensive sign. I mean, there's not a lot of concrete information out there, or even on why this decision was made. But I mean, I heard that it's going to cost about $85,000. But anyway, I don't talk about that. My concern, because I do understand that tourism is very important, and I know there is a certain pressure of the summer games coming so soon, and a lot of visitors coming to make it tourist attractive. And so I'm not arguing with that. I may not, it may not be my choice, but I have not got a problem with that. My problem is the location, as you said. And the reason, I guess that I'm actually calling is Jennifer Guy and myself were the co-chairs of that foundation. And at the time, this is the city's most historic park, and it is in a very historic area. And the ambience of that park was as a 19th century Victorian park, which is it's not Coney Island. It's not an amusement park. So when we were raising that money, we had other donors who would have certainly liked to have more visible signs to acknowledge their quite sizable contributions, but we had a mandate that we wanted to respect the ambiance of that park and also to be considerate of people who live in, surrounding the park. And so it was kept in a kind of signage was kept extremely low key. And I think what this is going to do is completely change the mandate, or not the mandate of the park, but the ambience, and really detract from something that I am very proud to have been involved in. Because every time I walk through that park and just hear the children playing and, see people sitting on benches or making hammocks around the trees and having a beautiful, wonderful time, but it's not an amusement park. So I just feel it's a step backwards, and I am sincerely hoping that council will reconsider this. I know that there is a lot of opposition because my phone hasn't stopped ringing from people just because I was on council who think I can do something about it. But Jennifer and I are in a book club, and we had a book club meeting on the weekend, and that was basically the conversation. So what we have decided now, Jennifer and I have written the mayor and council, and I think that, from just what I know about how council operates, that this is a meeting day because yesterday was a holiday. So I'm hoping council will be meeting today and hoping that they might reconsider. So we have decided, instead of wringing our hands, a very small group of women and a few others who want to join us, to have a small protest in front of City Hall this morning with our lovely signs of not putting it in Bannerman Park. So anyone who wants to join us is welcome, and I don't know what good this will do, but we felt that instead of just sitting around someone's living room and complaining about it, we wanted to do something. So first the letter, and now we're going to make a protest. I can tell you that's not something I normally do.
No, I understand. At this point, council has to understand that I haven't seen a positive review of the location, not one. I mean, the pushback has been quite loud, very vocal opposition to the location. So I think this is going to be an opportunity for council to hear what people are saying. I think there's going to be some debate about it tonight at council. I've been told that it's part of the agenda, maybe a quasi-loose part of the agenda, and it might not be the most important thing in the world, but for folks in the area, folks in the region, folks who have a historical connection to the park, they're pushing back here, and hopefully council is hearing what people are saying.
You are so right about that. I can't walk the streets without having someone come up to me and complaining about this and saying, where on earth was council's brain when it decided that location? So they are getting pushback, and I also believe that public opinion does sometimes affect public policy, so let's pray. But anyway, that's where I'm going to be this morning, down in front of City Hall with a large sign for the first time since the 70s. And the last time I hit the streets with a protest was when the city decided to run a 4-lane highway up from New Gower Street right across Queens Road. And they didn't do that. They changed their minds. So I'm very hopeful that they will reconsider and change their minds again.
When sometimes we have these types of public policy conversations, and it's one thing to be opposed, it's another to bring some proposed solutions to the table. Sometimes that's lacking in a lot of public discourse. Would you have suggestions for council as to where it might be more appropriate for said sign?
Well, Jennifer and I sat down with a number of our friends and just gave some thought to that. And in the letter we sent to the mayor, we did make, I think, 3 or 4 other suggestions. We are only doing this without possibly full knowledge about it. But I think if you look at where most cities place these, what did you call them, signs, saying where you are, they're in more industrialized or commercial areas or near stadiums or convention centers. And, my first choice for this would be just to put it somewhere in that general area of the Mile 1, or now called the Mary Brown Center, and City Hall, which I think that there would be space there. But, another thought that we had, I know they have said that they cannot put it on Signal Hill because the federal government wouldn't allow it, which is interesting. But there is land on Signal Hill down by the Geo Center across the street from that I understand is city-owned land. And then when we were just headbanging on this one, another thought would be in front of where the penitentiary land is adjacent to the trail on Kitty Vitty, and it's a pretty ugly site, with that fence. That a lot of people walk there, and there'll be activities there. I thought that possibly could be another site. And we were only headbanging this very quickly, but I do think that if they put their minds to it, the other thought we had is somewhere on the highways coming into St. John's, some of the entrances. It's like welcome to St. John's, as long as there is parking, so people can pull in and take their picture. But I'm sure if council really sat down and considered that, they would.
Possibly.
Find a place.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen these landmark signs.
I believe you're right, Patty. You should have a solution as well as criticism of a decision.
Yeah, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just trying, because adding that part to the conversation makes it a little bit easier then for council to engage in the conversation, as opposed to someone says, I'm opposed. Because sometimes that kind of feels like the end of the conversation as opposed to the opening salvo.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what we have asked. We have asked as to the people who were the co-chairs of the foundation that helped immensely. For years we worked on this to get that park where it is today. We have asked to meet with the mayor or the mayor and council just to discuss this and let them understand why we feel as we do. That's only early days. I hand-delivered that letter on Friday. So I'm still hopeful that I might get a response. And, as I say, yes, I'd like to have solutions as well as criticism. But I really feel passionate about this. I feel maternal about City Hall, about Bannerman Park. And, I would hate to see this happen.
Fair enough. And, I've been told I'm quite silly with my suggestion of the Southside Hills. But, I mean, people say, well, you can't get there to take a picture. Well, I mean, the most photographed sign in the world, it might be the Hollywood sign in the Hollywood Hills. So people don't necessarily hike up to that very often. They simply take a picture from afar, whether it be a selfie or otherwise. So, and it would be prominent. I don't even think Signal Hill is the best idea, because that, once again, we're talking about the feel, the vibe. Signal Hill doesn't really feel like an illuminated sign. It's one thing to have the lit up Christmas star.
This would be down. It wouldn't. So that was the problem we had, is where else can we put it that's not going to offend somebody or be equally not loved? And Southside Hills, you're right. I've seen the Hollywood sign, and I've seen other signs that are very visible entering a place, a community, but high up. And that, I think that would be even better than my idea. So let us hope. That's all I can say.
Shani, I appreciate making time for the show this morning. Thank you.
Well, thank you for making time for me.
My pleasure. Take good care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Shani Duff was the 12th mayor of the city of St. John's, and of course, like many, if not most, if not all, the opposition I've seen to this sign, it's remarkable. Sometimes people are very keen to focus in on cost. But I haven't seen a whole lot of concern with cost, but a ton of concern about where. Before we get to the break, let's go to line number 3. Good morning, John. You're on the air.
Hi, Patty. John Whalen here. I'm with the Rotary Club of Exploits.
Yes, sir.
You may remember I called you 2 weeks ago about our first Plant and Sip event.
Yes, sir. I remember the call.
Yes. And, we're having our second event now, tomorrow, Wednesday, June 25th. Also at the Exploits Nordic Ski Chalet on Scott Avenue here in Grand Falls, Windsor. And this event, the host will be local gardening expert Dave Morrill. And he'll be telling us all about plants and trees. And people can, it's from 7 to 9 tomorrow, again at the chalet. And people can, don't need to bring anything. Everything will be supplied. I mean, you can bring your own gardening gloves if you want, but we'll have gloves available and all that kind of stuff. I'd like to focus today, Patty, on what we're actually raising the money for.
Okay.
Because this is a fundraising project for the Rotary Club of Exploits. And we're raising money for the Grand Falls Windsor Community Garden. and they're going to take what we provide and buy and install 10 fruit trees and 6 gardening vegetable garden plots, and they're going to use the fruit and vegetables they cultivate to provide fresh fruit and vegetables to the Grand Falls Windsor Community Kitchen and the Grand Falls Windsor Bishops Falls and area food bank. So it's a really worthwhile project if people want to come out and support it.
100%. Good luck with it, John. You must have some garden yourself.
No, I don't.
No?
Actually, I was at the first event 2 weeks ago, and Heather Alaverdi, who was the host, went around and basically asked people to put up what their gardening, put up their hands for what gardening experience they had. And she said, "Now who has no experience with gardening?" And I put up my hand. And I said that when I moved out on my own, my late mother gave me an artificial plant.
And you haven't killed it yet. You're doing all right.
I haven't. Well, I don't have it anymore because that was years ago.
So you did kill it.
I did manage to kill it. Yes.
John, good luck with the event. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, brother.
You're welcome, sir. Bye-bye. All right, there you go. Let's see here. In addition to the conversation we had about the disability tax credit, important to note, you can't see an adjustment 10 years retro to your taxes when you qualify. Also, there's a caregiver credit that CRA does not automatically give you. So when you apply and you go down that road, check with a tax preparer, professional, and or your accountant to see if you qualify for that as well. Let's take a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go. Line number 4. Peter, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you? First-time caller here.
I'm doing great. How about you?
Good. Just wanted to weigh in on, just listen to your conversation there with former Mayor Duff.
Sure.
And I wanted to weigh in on the St. John sign. I was in Bannerman Park this weekend for the Telly 10, and I just kind of had a look around. Was kind of curious, and I was just like, I'd have to agree with her. It's just, that's a terrible location for, such a big sign and exposed in a lot of ways. And at the end, I noticed that, I was just kind of thinking, she talked about Signal Hill, and then at the end you weighed in on Southside Hills, and I think that would be like a phenomenal location to have a big lit St. John sign on the Southside Hills, maybe in the Shea Heights area somewhere there. Anyway, I just wanted to give my 2 cents worth for that. I thought it was, I really think it's a large waste of money, actually, to put that sign in Bannerman Park where, a lot of people are not even going to see it, and it certainly would take away from. I'd have to agree with Mayor Duff with the ambience of that park.
It just doesn't feel like the right spot. I've been trying to find a way to express that thought, and I saw this guy on social media say, Bannerman has a very purposeful, organic, unplugged vibe, and it kind of does. So this just doesn't feel like it's a good spot for it. The Southside Hills, whether it be closer to Shea Heights or up above the old Irving tanks or further down by the marina, whatever, I think there's a real prominent spot there. You'll be able to see it from an awful lot of the city versus to have to purposefully go to Bannerman Park to see the sign. I mean, I don't know if the tourists are going to care one way or the other about getting their picture taken with a sign, but I guess that's the thought. But I think if the more people can see it, probably the better value for money spent.
Exactly, yeah. And the other thing, like in locations like even Boring Park or Victoria Park or those places, I mean, they have their own things that you'd like to go see. Like adding that sign there to me, and certainly such a modern sign would really take away from that. You have the Colonial Building in Bannerman Park. It's in an older part of the city, and to me, it's just. I don't know. It's like putting them all there or something. It's just it just doesn't fit,
Yeah, I think that's the popular consensus out there. I wonder whether or not council is going to discuss this again at the regular meeting this evening. And if so, I would imagine, like, all I've heard is negativity about it. Whether or not that's going to provoke a different conversation, whether or not there's an actual additional list of potential locations for it. I think they did debate something. So they made specific mention of Signal Hill, and that's federal property, So I just wonder what's going to come tonight. I think there's a political victory here. It would certainly reflect that council is listening because the voices have been loud on this one.
100%. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate yours. Day. Stay in touch.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye, Peter. First-time caller. Love that. Let's go to line 2. Chris, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. How are you today?
Doing okay. How about you?
Oh, doing good, thanks. Did you have any time to look at those Claude AI tools that I made up to look at the MOU?
I'll admit I did, but briefly.
That's okay. There are better things to look at than math most days.
Well, I just got a lot on the go, but yes, I did see them.
And do you have any thoughts, or is it too brief for you to form an opinion?
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to say that I've got any sort of staunch opinion on it, because I admit I didn't give it a careful enough look to form one.
Totally fair. Well, I'll tell the listeners what I made, and I would encourage people to look at it. So it's basically a tool that takes what we know about the MOU and creates a price curve over time and attempts to show how much money we will make in revenue and how much money Quebec will save in their below market rates. And there are things we don't know about the MOU. We don't know the exact nature of the escalator clause. So there's a bit of a variable for that. And we don't really know what a fair price to compare it to for Quebec would be. So you can move that around too, depending on, what you think Quebec should be paying for power. And I use the government's numbers that are out. It's kind of a cross-reference between their little graph that they released over Christmas and text from the MOU, and that creates this price curve. And I think the Liberals were actually being conservative in their estimates for how much revenue we would be getting out of this, which is, kind of like one of the happy surprises I got out of it. Because it's a 50-year deal. We don't know what prices are going to do over time, It looks like the deal could be anywhere from $214 billion to $553 billion for us, like a huge range. And they only advertise at the lower end, which I now appreciate. The other side is Quebec and what they save, and their savings as a percentage, or in dollars, ranges from like $13 billion in savings to $366 billion in savings, and so that's sort of the less attractive to it. And you really do need to look at the 50-year time frame and all the all the years individually. You can't really use the average price to get the full analysis. And I don't know if we want to be giving Quebec that much of a discount on their power, our power, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, so inside of some of that, and when we talk about discount, the starting point here, there's just so much to this thing. The starting point here is 0.2 cents a kilowatt hour. And then the conversation begins on the heels of understanding that number. And then insofar as who gets what and who pays how much, the one point that people make to me, which I know what they're trying to say, but I don't know how this can be included in the negotiation about expansion of the Upper Churchill, the possibility for Gull and the 2 transmission projects, is about how much we pay per kilowatt hour versus how much they pay. I don't even know how you blend that into this negotiation, because just in all fairness, if I'm Michael Sabia or if I'm Francois Legault, I don't care. I mean, that's how negotiations go. They will start with their needs and wants, and their big need and want here is Gull. And what we pay for power, I don't even know how you factor that into the conversation. People say to me, well, geez, we're paying 14.5 cents. I know. I have a power bill comes every month too. But how do you include that in a negotiation about something that does not include that, period? So that one, I'm still scratching my head trying to figure out how to incorporate that.
Well, so that's the second tool that I made up, is trying to picture what that might look like. So my kind of pet opinion project, whatever, is that from, still build all the stuff, still, sell it to Quebec, keep that price curve, but carve off an additional 1 gigawatt for the island and 0.5 gigawatts for the coast of Labrador. And, the second little artifact assumes that's going to cost $5 billion to do, and that's just transmission. And so how that would impact us would be the next electrons coming into the island. And of course, the Quebec team will not care about this. That's totally correct. But the next thing that we built, and Hydro has said what they want to build, and it's this 150 gas turbine, 150 of hydro, and to buy 400 megawatts of wind. And we don't know how much the wind is going to cost. So that's, in tool number 2, the wind cost is the variable we don't know, and that, determines how expensive those next electrons on our grid will be. But it's probably fair to call our next electrons in the 10 to 12 cent range on the island, which is, like a fair replacement cost. If we take the power from Churchill Falls, that price is also about 10 cents in the first build out, but a 1 gigawatt line would allow us to build 3 times what Hydro is proposing to build now. So, and the line's going to work for 50 years. And, if we need to build more and more windmills, then that cost only escalates. I didn't include any transmission in the hydro cost. And so when the line is at capacity, that makes it like 5 cents a kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
And that would be, that's a couple decades worth of electrons for sure.
Absolutely. Chris, I just noticed out of the corner of my eye what time it is, so I have to get to the news, but I appreciate the tool. If you resend it to me, I'll have a more closer look at it this afternoon.
Most certainly, Patty.
Thank you, Chris. You too. Bye-bye. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, the seniors advocate is Susan Walsh. She joins us, and then you. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 3. Say good morning to the province's seniors advocate. That's Susan Walsh. Good morning, Susan. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you back on the program. So we're going to talk this morning about the 2024-2025 status report on recommendations. Let's start with the cost of living challenges. What progress has been made since the 2023 report from your office?
Well, I have to say, I'm pleased that government accepted our recommendation and they are now going to index the seniors' benefit. I think that's great news, and it's starting in July, the indexing. And so over time, we will see that keep pace with inflation and not, see the dives that we've seen in previous years. And the fact that government had to put money into it when inflation went up over the last few years. It should keep pace. So that's not a panacea. Like, seniors aren't going to see a huge amount of money in their pocket in the short term, but in the long term, they'll be better off. So I think that's a good news story.
No question. And when you look at, how we qualify people to be impoverished, or whatever the right phrase is, with the qualifications for the guaranteed income supplement from the federal government, in this province, 42% of seniors are eligible for it. The national average, 32%. And then you have regional disparities, which paint an even bleaker picture, I'll say, in Central and Western.
Absolutely. So really and truly, Central and Western should be on the top of everyone's priority list. We have the oldest, poorest seniors in Central and Western, and they have the hardest access to healthcare services, right? They have the longest distances to travel with little in the way of any kind of public transit or support. So if they can't drive themselves, oftentimes they're out of luck, or they've got to try to get somebody to bring them. So it's a massive issue, and you look at things like access to long-term care beds or personal care beds. The ratio, oddly enough, for long-term care beds is lower than the provincial average in Central and Western, even though they have the oldest seniors. Now, don't get me wrong, nobody wants to go in long-term care, but sometimes, unfortunately, we end up there. I mean, we definitely need a real focus on Central and Western for seniors. seniors.
Just to give some additional context to the GIS eligibility, in Central, 59%. In Western, 54%. Once again, the national average is around 32%. So that really does speak volumes to me. Sorry, go ahead.
Can I just add to that point? Like, you are 100% correct. And lay on top of it, like, even though Labrador doesn't show up usually, right? Because their number of seniors are lower per capita than, all the other regions. But when you look at their income levels for their seniors, and a lot of people think about Labrador, the income might be, a little better in terms of some of the big, companies up there and whatever. But seniors' income up in Labrador is just on par with the provincial average. And they've got the lower number of long-term care beds per capita. They've got lower number of personal care home beds per capita. There's practically no social housing for seniors up there. Like, if you're a senior in Labrador, you're also hurting.
Yeah, I mean, in some regions of Labrador, there are 0 long-term care beds.
Correct.
Yeah, unbelievable. So let's talk home support. This is where some of your concerns lie, is that, compared to other jurisdictions, other provinces in the country, where seniors don't pay for home care, we have just a different approach here in this province. I don't know why the government thinks we're on the right track here. So let's talk about what's not happening in home care support.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. So we've got 7 provinces in the country where if you're 65 plus, it's either free, or if you're 65 plus in low income, it's free. So, I think that's where we as a province need to get to. We should be the leaders in this, right? Given that per capita we have the most number of seniors than anywhere in the country. But we don't. We're not in that group, and unfortunately, our home support costs are significant. So every senior in this province pretty well has a copay. Like, you can be the lowest income senior receiving GIS, which is, really the measure of poverty, and you still have a copay. So many seniors do not take, even though they qualify, will not take the home support because they can't pay the copay. And then lay on top of that if any increase happens to their income, so their GIS goes up a little bit or their OAS goes up a little bit, well, it gets clawed back because they have to pay more for their home support. Like, there's a no-win situation for them.
And it's hard to even quantify exactly how many people out there won't take home care support because of the aforementioned issues that you just brought forward. It's really quite something. So has your office or anybody that you know of done some of the math here? Like, if we used round numbers like 10 hours a week of home care support or 10 hours a day of home care support, what that looks like insofar as cost goes to the individual and the government over the course of 12 months versus what it costs to be in a long-term care bed for 12 months. I think that would paint a pretty clear picture as to, it's on top of the social well-being and the safe and dignified surroundings and the familiarity and the closeness to friends and family versus the costs. Have we ever done that deep dive analysis?
So, Patty, that is some of the work. Like, we've been trying to get data from the Department of Health, from CIHI, the Canadian Institute for Health Information, from NILCHI, our Newfoundland equivalent, trying to paint that picture. And some of the questions we've asked about it, they're really struggling with answering because they can't measure or get data about the people who qualify but don't actually get it. So that's a problem in the first instance. And then the second problem is their formula is like, I don't know if you've ever looked at it, but it is so complex. So it's almost impossible. Like, you almost need to take just one situation, because every situation will be different depending on how your income is coming in, if you're single, if you're married, if you're the amount of income you get, the ratio for assessment changes. It's so complex. Our office has made recommendation, and we tried to break it up so that government could take it in 2 steps. We've said that anybody who receives GIS is already living in poverty. Make their home support free. Similar to people who receive income support, right? Their home support is free. And then the next step was any senior who receives the senior's benefit, make their home support free. So government could actually phase it over, a couple of years to financially make it more feasible, and then fix that phase out problem we got, right? That whole business of 18% of your income is being assessed, to determine how much you're paying for your copay, and it's even higher if your income's lower. Like, it's ludicrous.
I suppose if we took, just bare bones examples of A senior that's eligible for GIS with an annual income of $20,000 round number. A senior who is not eligible with income of $40,000. And then one of $60,000 of what it would cost to stay in your own home versus long-term care. I think if we all entertain that type of exercise, we'll probably be able to paint the picture of happier, healthier seniors and a cost savings.
There's no doubt, even without doing the exercise, but we are wanting, like that is something our office is trying to put together. Even without doing that, we know it's cheaper in long-term care. And besides that, Patty, think about it. So we only have 5% of the beds to meet the current need of seniors 80 and over. And so that's why we have hundreds of people, unfortunately, languishing in these alternate level of care beds, because there's not enough long-term care beds anyway. So regardless of the cost, even though it costs off the charts, regardless of the cost, there isn't enough beds. And government, I mean, you and I have talked about this before. The number of seniors 80 plus, or in the next 10 to 15 years, is going to skyrocket, right? It will be the largest age group in this province. And so we haven't even really seen the impact of an aging population here yet. So we need a whole different approach. Long-term care can't be the answer. It has to be home support.
No question, and it's about time. You and I have had this conversation many times. It's time for action, not time for talk, whether it be at the national and or provincial level. You know, people kicking the tires of an aging-in-place benefit, caregiver benefits to be expanded, you know, the cost-benefit analysis. I mean, we've heard these things for years and years and years, and still, for the life of me, I can't understand why we have not made appreciable changes. We've kind of noodled around and, you know, flicked around at the edges, but not to get to the core of it, and I don't understand why.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I think it's a matter of not really paying attention to who lives in this province and where, you know, we can all hope to increase our younger generation. I mean, we all do, obviously. We can hope that we'll get more people back in the province. We can hope for more children. Like, I hope so too. I'm sure everybody out there does. But we have to deal with what we currently have, you know, here and coming toward us. And so we got to plan for it. Patty, my biggest hope, truthfully, is that government, I know they've got the announcement today around the poverty reduction plan. And, you know, I've been very clear, and our office has been clear, that there's been very little, if anything, in the poverty reduction plan for seniors, right? There's been a well-being plan, but where is the actual reduction on the poverty side for seniors? And, you know, $400 or $500, you know, a year to help with your shoveling is not a poverty reduction plan. I would hope to hear that part of the poverty reduction announcement is going to be that we're going to make home support free. Like, wouldn't that be a fabulous poverty reduction plan for seniors?
No doubt about it. I mean, it'd be better for their own individual pocketbook. It'd be better for the government's coffers. There's an argument that there's a win-win available here, maybe a win-win-win.
I agree. I think there is. We'll take the load off of the long-term care facilities that they can't manage anyway, and consequently the number of staff that they're going to have to try to recruit that they can't. You know, and obviously you're trying to put staff in long-term care while you're trying to do the hospital system as well. So, I mean, in-home, in community is so much better for people, and it's where they want to be anyway. So if we could make it such that it was more affordable for seniors. Now, what we haven't talked about here at all is quality, right? We need to get into a discussion at some point around, you know, the quality of the care being provided, the training of the people who are doing it, their pay, all of that needs to be advanced as well.
No question. I mean, and we've, you know, seen some negotiations between personal care home attendants and their organized labor representatives. And who's not at the table? The government, which, you know, trying to pretend that they're not the agency. Well, you're paying the bill. I mean, you're the employer in the big scheme of things. Susan, anything else quickly before we have to say goodbye this morning?
No, I just, you know, thank you for your interest in this. And, you know, my biggest hope is that our recommendations, our status as recommendation report, which is what you call me about, gets some traction in terms of, okay, we're having progress. Government is listening. I really, truly believe they are. But now let's move on these financial ones so we can help seniors who are in community, stay in community, and stay well longer.
Appreciate your time, Susan. Thanks for doing it.
Thanks, Pat. Patty.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Bye-bye. Susan Walsh, the Province Seniors Advocate. Let's see here. I have no idea what the queue looks like, but let's throw the numbers out there. If you're in and around town, the number to dial to get in the queue and on the air is 709-273-5211. Elsewhere, toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. We're taking a break, and then we're coming back. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 3. Say good morning to the Ward 4 councillor here in the city of St. John's. That's Tom Davis. Good morning, Tom. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you. A lot of stuff on the go. I think we're going to stick to city stuff today. I just want to touch on a bunch of things really quickly that have come up on your show, just to kind of clarify a few things, and then we can probably get into some things a little deeper at your choice.
Okay.
First of all, obviously, the Kim Mounterra School announcement last week was really positive, but I am hearing from the residents, and I've been in Larrysbrook, I've been in Larkile, I've been in St. Andrews, and I've been in all the schools in the area, and for sure, the crowding in Larrysbrook and Larkile is amazing. Great teachers, but Larkile in particular, that school is showing its age and its condition. So I just want to publicly support the parents. Looking forward to what's going on there, but there are lots of questions, and anybody who wants to talk to me about them, they can. Obviously, it's a provincial issue, but looking forward to some progress in the ground broken.
Yeah, I think there's still some pretty big questions. The timeline seems to be overly ambitious. And what becomes of Larkile and Larrysbrook is, I think, a massive conversation for this coming September. Anyway, there you go.
Yeah. Garbage around construction sites. I just want to remind contractors. I mean, I don't know how many of them they're probably really busy working, but if anybody close to them, whisper in their ear or yell in their ear that, you got to keep, it's windy in Newfoundland and Labrador. When I'm doing garbage pickups, I come across styrofoam, in particular, a lot of styrofoam from building sites, and also tie wrap and different things done in construction. So people who are doing anything with construction, pick up after yourselves and have lots of garbage containers around so that you don't have it blown around. On the topic of garbage, not everybody in the city has bins for one reason or another. Just sometimes just the way their residences sit, it's not sensible for them to have a bin. So please remind everybody they need to cover their garbage and pay attention to the holidays and different things. Make sure you got your recycling days straight so that you're not putting stuff out and it's blown around.
Fair enough. There's one person particularly bad for it in and around where I live, but anyway, there you go.
Yeah, and I hear from it, so this is for everybody. People usually know who they are, but unfortunately maybe they don't listen to the show, but maybe they do, and if they do, please try a little better. Ped Mall's open in June 26th. The fire ban is still on. I did hear yesterday you had a gentleman on, was that today? Was that yesterday?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Talking about not seeing, I'll tell you what, my grass is dried up. The woods are dry, and I just want to echo how quickly, and I know you mentioned the fact that there's a limited number of services, and it gets spread around. But the world is different. I mean, you listen to, in the news, the hottest temperatures in many, many cities in North America that have ever experienced, including Toronto. And, that all has an impact. And it is dry. I don't think we saw any Capeland weather at all. And usually in June we're complaining about that long period of rain, drizzle, and fog. And I don't think we've seen it this year. At least if it did, I missed it. So
it kind of felt like it yesterday afternoon for a little bit, but yeah.
A little, yeah. Okay, so that's last week in council, we passed a bylaw or made a motion for street naming so that we're no longer going to be naming streets after specific individuals. There was some controversy over that. Some people feel it's maybe not for the right reasons, or there's a lot of different words get thrown around. From my point of view, I specifically supported that motion because with child abuse that we all know is all around, and also sexual violence, and the fact that most victims of those crimes do not report it. That was my main reason. There's a whole bunch of other reasons. There's political reasons. There's different reasons that you could list off. But for me, the fact that we would put a name on a street that potentially that victim would have to face was my main reason for supporting that. So I just wanted to state that publicly.
Okay. Just what was the starting point for what you just supported? Because I went right through me.
Sorry, I know you're doing a million things behind the scenes. I don't know how you keep up with it. Yeah, well, last week in council we voted to not name streets anymore after a specific person. I mean, it could be Daily Drive, but it won't be Patty Daily Drive, for example. And I just wanted to publicly state my reason for doing it. I mean, I support all the different reasons that were in the decision note, but my main reason for me is just that sensitivity, the fact that, and we see it happen where, down the road you find out someone's history is a little storied for one reason or another. And so, anyway, so that was my justification for that.
Yeah, those types of conversations, whether it be about John A. MacDonald or Langevin Hall or those types of things. I mean, when people understand the history, I think we've maybe taken a step too far in those types of things. Hauling down statues, changed the names of everything, because people aren't stupid. People will understand that, historical references, historical time frames, people's actual personal background, professionally or otherwise. When it gets out there, people know what they know what they know. They know what the name represents, and one name might represent a different thing to different people. So fair enough, the council does. There's no skin off my back. There's never going to be a Patty Daily Drive anyway, so I don't really care. But I think maybe we just get a little bit too collectively swept up in those types of worries, where I don't think the vast majority of people in the country actually worry about those types of things. We've all got busy lives and cost of living concerns and family and all the rest of it. So anyway, fair ball. I don't get a vote, so I don't get a say. Quick one. The proposed sign for Bannerman Park. Is council going to maybe reconsider that this evening? Is it on the agenda for debate? Because the pushback has been loud.
I wanted to leave that one for last. Can I go on with just a couple more?
Very quickly, because I have to go.
Canada Games volunteer policy. There's a lot of stuff going around. I don't know what the provinces is, not my concern. But the 2025 employee volunteer policy is that our employees who volunteer at least 32 hours to be considered official volunteers, and they volunteer 16 hours a week during their regular work hours, will receive a special leave with pay for up to 8 hours per week. So just to clarify, there's no recovery times or, not getting paid for all their time. And this is something that the host cities, regularly, consistently do to support that, because a lot of our staff would be very talented and be needed during those daytimes, and this is just a bit of an incentive for those people. Okay, so now let's get into the sign.
Okay.
I haven't seen, and there's nothing I've seen that we've done since I got elected last March that comes close to the pushback from all levels from this sign. And it's amazing how this process worked through council, and I just want to apologize because this was a process that kind of came from staff and came up through us, and we should have engaged with the residents. We did not originally plan for it to be in Bannerman Park. The plan was we're going to do this, and then we started looking for sites, and believe it or not, we couldn't find one in all the places. I mean, some of these great suggestions coming out now would have come out, and I'm very interested in what's going to happen today, and I listened to former Mayor Duff, and a lot of respect for her. I don't think they need to go on protest. I think the message has been communicated very loud and clear. I'll be very interested to see how today goes. But I just want to encourage residents to do what they've done this time. Take the time, send the emails, phone us. A lot of us are so inundated by socials that we don't necessarily see that as much. I mean, maybe more so than others. I know I'm really busy right now, but definitely through emails. And I want to encourage them to take this passion and this advocacy and also focus it now on the fact that if you're getting your property tax assessments, you'll notice that your houses are going up. This is an election year. I just want to shine a big light on the fact that how the city spends your money, and this is an example of it. You guys need to come into our inboxes, into the council chambers, and make your voices known, be aware, be engaged, because whether it's provincial or federal, but definitely on the municipal level, we need to hear you. And I, for one, am really grateful to have the opportunity to engage with all these people and hear what they have to say.
Appreciate the time, Tom. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye. I'm curious to see what goes on there tonight, too. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're speaking with you. Don't go away. Welcome back. Let's go to line number 4. Paul, you're on the air.
Hey, Patty, how are you doing today?
Doing okay. How about you?
Not too bad. Paddy, I want to weigh in on yesterday. You were talking about this Uber stuff and everything with no criminal background checks. Well, they got a criminal background check, but no vulnerable sector checks. And, not releasing the data and all that stuff, right? My problem is here, I'm a local taxi driver here with the city, and I've been at it for a long time. And the thing is that the city brought this stuff in. Danny Breen was the one who started it, and then it moved on to provincial government because of the Highway Traffic Act, as we discussed before. But my thing is, we've got them here now because of the Canada Summer Games, doing ride sharing with Ontario license plates and everything onto them. And not only that, 2 days ago, CBC released a report about ride sharing and Uber and that in Toronto. In the last 2 years, there's been 5 convictions of sexual assault, and there's 12 ongoing right now. And they won't release any data on it to the public. Now, these cars are here from Ontario. I got plate numbers and everything. They've been out to the airport. I've been keeping an eye on it. And the thing is that are they just moving these guys to a different province? Because we know about moving sexual assault offenders, how that goes, how that ends up, right? This is my question. And there's no one at City Hall that will answer it because he says it's a provincial issue. But if it wasn't for Danny Breen and the city councillors who amended this and pushed the provincial government to bring Uber here, it wouldn't be going on. And not only that, we're trying to get, since April of 2025, that was a year for Uber. At our company alone, there's 3 brokers that went out of business. That led to about 24 cars, which in total, full and part-time drivers, night drivers, day drivers, it entailed about 60 drivers lost their jobs. And there's another broker there that cut back on these cars. And you phone digital services, which since they brought them in, this is their 3rd digital services minister since they brought them in. And you phone them, and nobody can give you an answer of how many drivers are here, how many cars are here. They don't have an inspector here. They got the free run of everything here, whereas we have to go get our cars licensed. I have to go get a medical and a physical done on July 28 here in order to keep my taxi license. And these guys come walking here from the United States, let me mind you, and do as they wish. And not only are they trying to help us, as of May the 1st of 2025, they're allowing them to operate right across the province, Newfoundland and Labrador. So how is that fair to the local taxi drivers? And why can't someone from municipal or provincial government come on your show and explain how it's right?
They're welcome to try.
Yeah, it's ludicrous, man. They're talking about shopping local, buying local, spending local, and they're shipping everything out of her. And come to the Canada Games, these kids now, everybody that volunteered for those Canada Games, they had to go get their own criminal background check and vulnerable sector check, and now they're going to pay the municipal and the provincial employees, they're going to pay them. So how is a paid volunteer? Those 2 words don't go together in my books. So why are they paying those guys? And it was only decided in the last 2 weeks that they're going to do this with time off. And Tom Davis was just on there talking about they have special talents they could bring to it. But why don't they volunteer those talents? Why do they have to get paid? And do they have their vulnerable sector checks and criminal background checks in place? Because the last time I heard, they were 6 months behind in getting them processed.
I don't know. We're anticipating an update on everything volunteer with the Canada Summer Games here very shortly. And I'm curious about some of these policies and some of the numbers as well. Insofar as the provincial government and or the municipality making this decision, it really does feel like this was an approach made by leadership at the Games to try to get those last few hundred volunteers they needed to hit their 5,000 target. I'm pretty sure that's the impetus for all this. Whether or not people think that's a good idea or a bad idea, I'll leave it up to them. Paul, I'm scooting off to the break, but I appreciate your time. Stay in touch.
I just want one more last thing, Paddy, and I'll make this quick, right? Okay. They can pay the provincial employees and the municipal employees to go over there and volunteer, but those kids are putting their heart and soul into doing this and representing Newfoundland and Labrador. They're a bunch of clowns. They can't even pay for their uniforms. It's time for us. Like I said, I'm glad there's two municipal and provincial elections in October, because that way we can knock out 2 birds with 1 stone when the election comes. And I can guarantee you'll hear it from us and the taxi drivers.
Appreciate the time, Paul.
All right, thanks, pal. Take care.
Anytime. Bye-bye. All right, let's take a break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 1. Bob, you're on the air.
Oh, hi, Patty. How are you?
Okay, how about you?
I'm good. Well, not really. I'm calling about a quote word pivot strategy. Have you heard of that?
I have, yeah.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, Cloward Pivot.
Play out in real time right now.
Well, I mean, that dates back. I can't remember where the two professors taught, like Stanford or something like that. But it was basically a concept that was being thrown around in the mid-1960s in the United States, and it was all about some sort of forced pathway to ending poverty through distribution of wealth or redistribution of wealth. That's just the basic headline.
That's exactly what's going on here now. Mark Carney is spending like crazy, and he's bringing in immigrants hand over fist to create chaos in order to install another government. Did you know that Carney's wife's aunt helped write that strategy?
No, I don't think that's true. Well, but bringing in immigrants hand over fist, I mean, the issue here is that he's been pretty clear. The number of immigrants that have been brought into the country in the last 6 months is not what people are like. People sometimes get their news via meme. But Stats Canada just released the most recent Q1 numbers here in Canada for newcomers through all the different 4 silos. So the numbers are down.
No, I'm walking around here in St. John's and stuff. I'm seeing more immigrants here like you wouldn't believe. You can see them now.
Numbers nationally are down.
But I'm not. I don't want to say anything about the immigrants and everything else. But how about the carbon tax? I think that's just basically racketeering. There's studies out there now showing that there's more polar ice in the poles than before. There's over between 100 and 200 billion new tons of ice at the poles. But nobody's talking about this because they're making too much money racketeering off of green energy. It's all a scam. And Carney's walking away with a handful of money here.
What?
Trudeau and them were doing the same thing. Spend, spend, spend until we can't spend no more. We're going to get a soon awakening here right shortly because Carney was the guy that was advising on all this. He's a global elite leader. He's also in the World Economic Forum along with Freeland, Trudeau. They're also hooked up with George Soros. They've been planning this since 1971, and we're watching it unfold right now.
It's the slowest moving coup in the history of man.
Well, they've been planning it since 1966. That's the pivot one. And the World Economic Forum's been on the go since 1971.
Right.
Anybody you know that's behind all this stuff is connected to those people. You got BlackRock in all of this, too. You just Google what rape gangs or grooming gangs in the UK, because that's what's coming here.
What does that have to do with the World Economic Forum?
Google these places. Pardon?
You're making pretty loose connections to a lot of strange things here. What is a gang that's...
No, these aren't loose connections. I can connect them all. All you got to do, I got pictures of Trudeau and Freeland with Soros.
So what?
Freeland... What?
So what?
I'm just trying to wake people up to let them know what's going on, because what's going to happen here is not going to be good.
People have been telling me for 20 years that the World Economic Forum is going to change the face of the world and change the face of Canada. Hasn't happened, though, curiously enough. And it's not just liberals who have ever been in attendance at the World Economic Forum. It's simply not true. So, I mean, plus...
Oh, I know. I agree with you.
Why are we giving so much credit?
Even the provincial government in this province doesn't seem to know what's going on, because they're letting it all happen, and none of them from here are in the World Economic Forum, and that's the PCs as well. So when if they get in, they're going to do the same.
The World Economic Forum conversation to me is kind of strange, to be honest, because I think we're giving an awful lot of credit to a bunch of hypocritical elite blowhards when they collect in Davos, Switzerland via their private jets, and they babble on about what they see the world should be or should be shaped like. But they have no friggin' say. They don't have any sovereign authority over any country on the face of the earth. I mean, we've got leaders. Some people that go to these congregations have meaningful messages to share, but they don't have any actual say. They don't have any actual clout in the world. If they did, they would have accomplished something by now. Because as you say, since 1971, and Klaus Schwab is just stepping away now, as a matter of fact, and he's the guy behind all of this. And in 1966, Mark Carney was in short pants. You know, Christopher Freeland, I don't even think was born. So I think we give a lot of credit to that World Economic Forum for the devastation they can bring to bear when they haven't done anything.
I think they're all on this together, and that the governments are letting it happen. Because, like you look at Trudeau's wealth, how much it went up when he was prime minister.
Well, what do you think his net worth is?
They were just taking money. Like Guilbeault, he's taken $240 million and given it to his own green company. So they're just
but that's not true either.
Stealing.
And same thing with Trudeau. Look, I got people trying to convince me that he's worth $100 million. I mean, that's just nonsense, right? Justin Trudeau does not have $100 million. He doesn't.
I think he's even above that.
I'm sure he's not.
Oh, I'm quite sure he is. These people at the top are well organized, and they're implementing this covert pivot strategy, and it's working. That's why the UK is overrun, France is overrun, Australia and Ireland, they're completely gone.
Well, I don't know.
They've been taken over.
I've been there recently. It doesn't feel like they're gone.
They're global elites. That's what they are.
All right.
And they all hang around. Like, you look at Carney. Carney has connections all over the place.
Of course he does.
And when he says he knows how the world works, he's not kidding. He knows. They all know each other.
Okay.
That's what people can't understand. They all know each other. They're all in it together. They organize over there in Switzerland. Switzerland should be declared a terrorist country for what they allow happen in that country to other countries.
What? Switzerland should be declared a terrorist country because they host a meeting?
And they should be held accountable because of the World Economic Forum, what they're doing to the rest of the world. And they're allowed to organize over there in Switzerland. And you can't tell me that this stuff is not happening in this country. Carney's out there spending.
Right.
That's so we are in so much debt we can't get out of it anymore. And then the immigration is brought in to they're paying the immigrants here. They're giving them money while we go homeless. That's what's going on. If you can't see that, you can't see nothing.
I'm pretty
there's
sure.
Homeless people.
I'm pretty sure I know what's going on.
Look at COVID. You tell me that wasn't planned?
No, it wasn't.
Like COVID.
Yeah, no.
COVID. Did you know that a Winnipeg lab shipped Ebola over to Wuhan, China on a commercial airline?
I know about the Winnipeg lab leak. And so are you, before I do have to go, are you telling me that COVID was like what people call the plandemic or the scamdemic or whatever label people put on it?
It was released from Wuhan, China.
Yeah, okay.
And that's all coming out now. If you watch the House Senate in the United States, they got Fauci up there on the stand and all that now. So all that's coming out.
You're playing all the hits.
These people think they're not going to be arrested is beyond me.
You're playing all the hits here this morning, Bob.
Even Newfoundland here, they were forcing that COVID jab on anybody, and it's turning out that's experimental gene therapy.
No, it's not.
So I'm not vaccinated, just to let you know, too.
Good for you.
So. And my blood's clean, so.
You're pure blood.
So. Yep. And I'll never take no vaccines, no jab,
vaccines.
Nothing.
No vaccines of any type.
No, I will never take another thing from the government again.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm just saying, Newfoundlanders better get ready, because when they've finished what they're doing to us, it's not going to be pretty, because we're going to be overrun. We're going to be in so much debt, overrun, that they'll do whatever they like.
Okay.
And
all right.
It started in 1966.
Yes, I know.
The World Economic started in 1971.
Yes, I know.
And they've been planning it ever since.
Take good care of yourself, Bob.
All right.
All the best. Bye-bye. So we're pretty close to the 11 o'clock news, so I won't try to squeeze anybody in there so they get the required amount of time. When we come back, we're going to be talking about mining on the Baber Peninsula. There's an innovation task force that's been created. Mining probably doesn't get the conversation or the focus that it really deserves here in this province. It's going to be pretty active on the Baber Peninsula. They're talking about maybe an additional 1,000 workers. And, of course, that's a good thing for people to get the jobs. And we remind ourselves that 74% of the 14,000 members at Trades NL are currently unemployed. But with the job creation, with the mines opening, with mines expanding, also comes the need for infrastructure, housing and otherwise. So Shannon Lewis is in the queue to talk about, I don't know what she wants to talk about, but that was just my thoughts on Bay Verde and mining opportunities on that peninsula. And then we're going to talk about a wait list to get into Masonic Park, and then whatever you want to talk about. Let's see here. Final check on the Twitter before we get to the news. We're VOCM Open Line, and you can follow us there. Email address is openline@vocm.com, but my favorite is when you pick up the phone and give us a shout. 709-273-5211. That's the local number. Toll-free long distance, 1-888-590-VOCM, which is 8626. We're taking a break, and then we're coming back.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 6. Good morning, Shannon Lewis. You're on the air.
Hey, Patty. How are you doing?
Great today. How about you?
Oh, not too bad.
Good.
Just wanted to take an opportunity to call in today, and on the heels of the mining conference we had last week out in Bay Verde. We had a great mining conference, tremendous attendance, a lot of excitement, and we felt that going forward it would be important to communicate to the public the opportunities in the Bay Verde region and some of the work that our task force is undertaking.
Where do you want to start?
Well, let's make an introduction to what the task force is all about. We're the Bay Verde Peninsula Regional Mining Innovation Task Force Group. We're working underneath the Chamber of Commerce, and really it's a group of stakeholders, largely made up of the mining industry companies, the town of Bay Verde, Chamber of Commerce, College North Atlantic. And we were formed last year in recognition of a need to bring regional stakeholders together to address some of the concerns and challenges that we have coming along with all the economic opportunities. So it's a little bit of an urgency with the formation of the task force, but we are excited about the work undercoming. But there's a lot of challenges in the region that need to be addressed. So we're really an advocacy group and a group that's going to build a regional strategy with the help of some consulting services that we've acquired with actionable items, really to make us prepared for the boom that's coming.
And it's coming. I mean, we had a couple of guests on prior to the most recent conference out there, and there's talk, like, for instance, just in broad strokes, maybe an additional 1,000 jobs will be created on the Bay Verde Peninsula, which is a very good news announcement, but it also comes with having to satisfy a bunch of needs. For instance, housing, other pieces of infrastructure, different amenities that might be required. Where does your task force play a role compared to, say, for instance, the municipality and the provincial government? Because a lot comes with the creation of 1,000 jobs in a place the size of Bay Verde.
Well, I think we're trying to be a linkage, try to be a liaison between everyone. There's a lot of, as you know, there would be a lot of players, a lot of different organizations involved that are going to be affected. Just talking a little bit about the Bay Verde region, we have a long history of mining. Currently, there's 3 active mining projects engaged in the region, plus there's a couple of other ones that are, on the cusp of becoming more active. But we're not just a mining region. We have a major activity in the forestry. We have a major activity in the fishery and tourism. So there's a lot of resource sector work here. The thing is that we've been active for the last 20 years in the mining sector with current operations, and we saw challenges 2 years ago where we had major infrastructure gaps, we have major work skills, trades gaps, major housing gaps. Some of the the institutional things that are required to operate as a community or a regional community. And with the anticipation, and it's not just anticipation, this is actually happening. And with our economic forecast, the demand that's coming ahead of us, we're not prepared as a region to deal with that. So this is a regional group of people to come together to build a cohesive strategy. We need actionable items identified to fill those gaps. And we can't be complacent with that. in order for these mining companies and the different resource sectors to be successful, we have to address these issues, and they are very serious and a lot of big issues. Even without the boom that's coming and the amount of jobs that we're anticipating, the current situation is not sufficient. Lack of daycare support. We have a school that was built for a declining population that's already at capacity. We have lack of accommodations for either long-term or short-term workers to come into the region. These are major, major issues. And when you're talking specifically about just the mining activity of between 11 to 1,400 direct jobs in the next 2 years, if you use a ratio of 3 to 1, you're looking at a couple thousand people. And as a region, we're not prepared to be able to handle that. Our infrastructure, our community support systems are not there. So it's very, very exciting. But we do have a lot of major issues to overcome. So the task force is really geared to build that regional strategy, identify the actionable items, and build the linkages with governments to help us all be successful here.
The trick here is going to be able to try to dovetail the jobs expansion with things like education and daycare and housing. That's the tricky part.
It is very tricky, and it's a lot of work. And the reality is we can't stick our heads in the sand and think it's all going to be fine, because it's not. We all have to come together, and if we're going to be separate in different agendas, or we're not cohesive, or everybody doesn't know what each other's doing, we're going to get lost. And so the objective of the task force and what we're really going to work towards, awareness of the opportunities that are coming, but also engagement, from a community regional point of view. And we have to have government sitting at the table at a senior level in order for us to be able to achieve some of these bigger items. We've seen the boom bust cycles of mining. We understand the ups and downs in the fishery. We're a resource-based province, and we're a resource-based region. The thing is that 3 years ago, we had 400 miners on the Bayward region, and there were even challenges back then with the availability of health care being sufficient, the availability of housing being sufficient. And these are not new issues, and they're not new issues to the province or to Canada. They're global issues. But the thing is, we have a major economic opportunity in the Bayward region. We add tremendous value to the provincial gross GDP. There's a lot of tax base that comes out of here, but we need to see reinvestment into our region, and something that we feel as a region we haven't felt that in the last decade or more, for sure.
Well, that's the key point you make there is, we've got a lot of different moving parts and a lot of different ministerial responsibilities all coming together as one, but that's, once again, the trick. We have a nasty way of operating in silos, left and right hand, really totally disconnected, and until that is rectified, then people are going to piecemeal this stuff, and it requires a cohesive, comprehensive policy with everybody knowing what their input is, what their required efforts are at the same time, as opposed to, we did this, we forgot to do that, we should do this, well, someone else is working on that. That's the kind of stuff that goes on in government, because it's a behemoth, right? We just need a bit more streamlined approach when we talk about policy and infrastructure requirements, those types of things.
100%. And I think, there's a lot of great initiatives that are, in the government provincially that we're working towards achieving some of the big things about, workforce skill sets and stuff. But, I think with the Bayward region, we're a little bit of a niche. We are off the beaten path. There's a lot of things that it's a web of activity down here, but it's also a web of challenges that, we need to be more communicating to the government in a direct way, in a supportive way, so we can, build relationships that are positive. And, this is a tremendous opportunity down here for the next 20, 25 years. And, it's a win for the province, it's a win for the region. And the only way to get the best success out of that is build relationships and working together. We don't have time to lose in trying to connect communications. We have to do that kind of immediately. And that's really what the task force is built to do, is to support the communities in the region, support the councils, support the support services and the businesses, and just try to be a great liaison with the government agencies to figure out how we can all work together to get it done. Again, great news stories coming out of Bayport region. We're very excited, but at the same time, there is a tremendous amount of pressure that comes with this size of a development. And they're not talking one project. You're talking multiple mining companies, multiple sectors with the fishing and the forestry, and we definitely need to get a lot of attention drawn to it.
Appreciate the time this morning, Shannon. Good luck. Stay in touch.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
The same to you, sir. Bye-bye. Shannon Lewis with the Bayport Peninsula Mining Innovation Group. Let's take a break. We'll come back. Cavell's in the queue to talk about Mark Carney. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Cavell, you're on the air.
Yes, Paddy. What I'm concerned about is Mr. Mark Carney, our new Prime Minister, joining our country with the UN, United Nations, in security and defence.
The United Nations?
Why he would choose Canada?
I'm sorry, can you start that again? Canada joining the United Nations?
Yes, it was on the news yesterday where Mark Carney is joining our country, Canada, with the United Nations in defence and security.
Oh, I think you're trying to say the European Union?
Yeah, the European Union, yeah.
Because we've long been a member of the United Nations. So, yeah, I mean, if we're talking about the partnership between Canada and the European Union, also you have to put Australia in there because we are in bed with the Australians regarding multi-billion-dollar radar system for the Arctic. So the European Union is entertaining something that they call Rearm Europe. It's $1.25 trillion worth of spending. And yes, Canada is talking about being formally involved with that partnership by the 1st of July. That's right.
So this can't fail, can it?
I'm sorry, what would your general concern be with that? Just curious.
Well, Germany is part of the European Union.
Yeah.
And it was Germany that started the Second and the First World War.
Oh, okay. I mean, things have changed.
We probably have another one that our boys will probably have to be involved.
The world has changed dramatically.
It was Germany. It was United States and Britain that stopped our people from being consumed and destroyed by the Germans.
But I'm
still thinking that we are betrayed by Mark Carney.
Because of what happened in the 1914 to 18 and then 39 to 45?
14, 18, yeah. And 1939 to 1945. It was the Germans that started that war.
Sure, I'm not going to dispute any wartime facts, but what that has to do with the modern world in 2025, I'm not entirely sure how much worry that I would afford to that history as opposed to what the reliance that we currently have. Like, for instance, one thing that the Prime Minister said on that front is 70% of our defense procurement contracts lie with the United States. So with them proving to be pretty unpredictable and unreliable these days, it makes sense to me to get involved with diversifying partnerships, diversifying allies, reliance more on domestic procurement, reliance more on European procurement, as opposed to how we currently do business. Forging partnerships in defense and security just feels like a good idea to me. Not to say that that should be done with the Chinese or the Russians or the Iranians, but the European Union is a pretty friendly place to Canada. I
don't trust him. What that other man said about Mark Carney, he's right on. And there is a prophecy about Germany. They are called Assyria in the Bible. And it says that they will strike again. They will go to Israel and try to take over Israel.
The Germans.
And it's in the coming years. And that's when Jesus comes and kills them all. I can only tell you what I'm reading from the Bible that was prophesied centuries and centuries ago about Germany, which is Assyria in the Bible.
I don't know how people can incorporate.
My love.
It's okay. You think whatever you think. I don't know how we incorporate biblical rules.
Jesus don't lie. The people that wrote that Bible don't lie.
They maybe do a little bit.
Have a good day, my love.
Okay,
God bless
Cabell. You take good care of yourself.
Bye-bye, my love.
Okay, bye-bye. We do a fair bit of business with the European Union, including the Germans. And I think the world has shifted dramatically insofar as historical context and what different countries represent and all the rest of it. But let's keep going. Let's go to line number 4. Good morning, Robert. You're on the air. Hi, Robert.
How you doing?
Okay, I think. How about you?
Oh, not too bad.
Okay.
I'm calling in regards to, I'm a senior, and I've been trying to get up to Masonic Park for the last 9 years, and I can't even get a phone call.
9 years?
9 years. I put my name in 9 years ago.
Yikes. Do you have any idea about the wait list and what would be a normal wait time, or where you stand on the wait list, any of those types of issues?
No, you can't find out. There's one man that runs it up there, and he's never there, or he doesn't answer the door or the phone.
Yeah, so have you been, in addition to trying to get into Masonic Park, are you trying to get in anywhere else while you wait for almost a decade?
Oh, my God. Oh, yes. I've been retired for 21 years. I was forced to retire because of epilepsy. And I want to stay in Mount Pearl if I can, but there's nowhere to go. And the rents are astronomical in regards to what Masonic Parks are.
And what would be rent up in Masonic Park? I have no idea.
$900 a month.
Okay. Where are you currently living?
We own our own home in Mount Pearl, and we've been here for 50 years. But we're having trouble now maintaining it. I don't have the strength to cut the grass, and there's certain things I can't do anymore. It's just difficult, and I'm looking for a place where they do the maintenance for you. I don't mind paying, but $2,000 to $3,000 a month I can't afford.
Me neither. I'm going to send a note off to Masonic Park myself, just mostly out of curiosity, spurred on by your wait time of 9 years and the inability to get any answers to the very fundamental questions. How long is the wait list? Where am I on it? You know,
all these questions are very important.
Of course they are.
I went up and saw Paul Lane. He was going to talk to Lucy Stoyles, and I haven't heard a word from neither one of them. Now, I went up and saw Paul Lane, and he said he'd passed on to Lucy because it's in Lucy's district.
Yeah, I don't know if Ms. Doyles is going to be able to get you an answer, but I'll do my own legwork here and see if I can't get you one.
Oh, like I said, I'd really appreciate it. We're just looking for a place for around $1,000 a month, 2 bedrooms, if we can do it, and that way I don't have to walk upstairs. I can't walk upstairs anymore.
Okay, leave the Masonic Park issue with me, and we do indeed have some listeners of the program that are in the landlord and property management business. Sometimes they chime in if indeed they have something available. If they do, can I share your number?
Oh, God, yes, but I'd rather give it to you off the air.
That's no problem. I'll put you on hold, make sure David has the appropriate number, and if we can help connect you with a $1,000 2-bedroom, whether it be at Masonic Park or otherwise, we'll do what we can.
Yeah, we're trying to stay in Mount Pearl.
Got it.
Because we've lived here all our lives, and that's where our family is.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Robert. Take care.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye-bye. So, Masonic Park, if you're listening, can you just, share some basic details with us? How long is the wait list? And maybe where this particular gentleman is on it, just so we can relay the info. Because if it looks like it's never going to happen or nowhere near in the short term, then maybe we'll just have to try a different avenue in an effort to help Robert and wife stay in Mount Pearl with the appropriate housing at the affordability level that you just heard. I'm going to put, we'll say Paul in for after the news, right? Because we don't have a whole lot of time. Let's check in on Twitter. We're VOCM Open Line follows there. And people are sending me notes along with biblical Assyrians and that stuff. As far as I ever knew, I don't think they were in Europe anyway, but... Okay, we're taking your emails. It's openline@vocm.com. Plenty of people chiming in, interestingly, about the conversation we had with Shannon Lewis regarding Bay Verde. I'll leave this person's name out of it. They would like to remain anonymous. But some of the questions are about the empty college. So the College of Bayvert not currently being utilised to its full potential, says the emailer, despite growing opportunities in the region. That's a very interesting point that I had not considered. Graduates from the 4 area schools are forced to leave their hometown to pursue post-secondary education elsewhere, taking with them their potential contributions to the local economy. By introducing relevant programs, particularly in the trades and construction, the college could be a vital resource for both the students and the corporate community looking to expand and create said aforementioned 1,000-ish jobs on the Bayvert Peninsula. So that's a very good point. We'll go straight to the source there to talk about opportunities for the college and what role they can play in the growth in the mining industry on the Bayvert Peninsula. And as Shannon rightfully pointed out, also lots of natural resource work on that in that part of the province when you talk about forestry and the fishery and the like. Let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back from this newscast, we're going to have an opportunity to speak with you on a topic that is entirely up to you. Don't go away.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 5. Say good morning to the PC member for Topsail Paradise. That's Paul Ding. Good morning, Paul. You're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy. Thanks for taking my call.
No problem.
I won't keep you long. I just want to call in throughout the year. I get quite a few issues brought forward regarding childcare and education, and this year, of course, is no different than last. And this time last year, I held a town hall on childcare. So many parents have reached out and have said, "Well, can we do something similar this year?" Which is what I'm doing. So that'll be tonight at the Topsail United Church in Topsail from 7 to 9 p.m. So it's a pretty broad topic. It's education, childcare, and it's just inviting those who want to come forward and share their concerns and hopefully validate some concerns and bring any new issues forward. This is an opportunity for them to do so. And last year, I provided a report back to the minister at the time on childcare, and I intend to do the same tonight. And no issue is off topic when it comes to education and childcare. So, and this, of course, before the school year ends and kids are out of school, it's a great opportunity to get this messaging out. So I'm hoping, whether one shows up for 100, I will be there to listen to the concerns and move their concerns forward. I know I have heard from a lot of them, and a lot of them are the same, but this is just another venue and another way to do so if people want to do it.
Fair enough. So is the focus strictly education, childcare, what have you?
Yeah, yes, it is. I mean, anyone can bring any issue forward, but education. You're talking K to 12, you're talking post-secondary. There's a lot that falls in there. Childcare, of course, now with the summer approaching, and we have a lot of families who are searching for summer programs and summer childcare. So there's many issues out there that fall under those two categories. So everything and anything that's related to that, if they want to bring it forward, and we can and add it to the list, and also discuss potential solutions. So we're open to anything there, because it's a great time of year when the kids are getting out of school. But it's not so much when you talk about parents and teachers who are, assessing the past year and looking forward to a better next year. And, I think our teachers and our students deserve that look for the coming year to iron out some of the issues that weren't covered off in this past year.
People view this end of the school year as the end of the school year, when in fact the summer months is really when some of the real grunt work, hard work needs to get done. Because during the September to June, the focus obviously needs to be on schooling. But during the summer months, we really have to, knuckle down and do some of the work. And it's more than just $20 million in the budget and 400 new positions. There's different things that maybe sometimes go unseen unless you're living it yourself with your own family and your child in the K-12 system. So summer really is a big time of year for the education system, even though we don't think about it like that.
No, it's huge. You talk about teacher allocations, and I heard this past fall, schools, October and November into the school year, and still not having, proper placements and that in place for particular subject matter. And that shouldn't be. Yes, you'll get the exception, but it tends to be the norm now when it comes to having teachers in place. The other thing is around like school bus routes. We shouldn't be, in the first or second week of September, hearing about issues around busing, picking up kids on streets that have no sidewalks, or buses that can't stop at childcare centres where most working parents drop their kids off. I mean, there's a lot of these, and some of these, Patty, to me, are low-hanging fruit. They're not rocket science. There's some quick, easy solutions to that. When you register your child and you say, my child, well, we live at ABC Street, but my child's going to be at the child care centre to be picked up and dropped off at GF Street, right? And that those are simple, like an extra line on their registration form, so that when busing's planned, they're saying, okay, we're picking up so many here and dropping them off there. And to me, those are simple solutions, and parents are still having issues with those. So, I mean, this is the time of year, and that's what I want to talk about tonight. I want to hear, I'll be listening, from parents on the many different concerns. And some of these have been brought up last year after the meeting I had last year, and still are on the books to be done. So you want to have the school year end or start with everything in place, and all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, and everyone have a wonderful start to the school year, just like I expect them to have a wonderful end to the school year.
Where does school lunch fit into this, Paul?
Oh, that's a good question, too. I spoke to a peer. I coach soccer in my spare time, and I was at the field just last night, and two parents actually approached me about the school lunch program. And they were very concerned because there were parents who worked the school lunch program, and now they're off for summer. But they've been very concerned about the options that are offered for school lunch. They said there's not enough consultation in terms of what the children like to have, within a healthy diet. And they see a lot of wastage. They see a lot of wastage of food. They see a lot of kids who just don't take what they're offering. And these two parents were saying we need to have more consultation around that. And then, of course, there's the bigger issue about the amount of money that's gone into the school lunch program and not seeing the growth in the program that was expected. But, this is who I want to hear from. I want to hear from ones with lived experiences, ones who are doing it. So these were two parents who worked that school lunch program on a daily basis, and they're talking about what they see. And, in fact, someone wrote me just not too long ago talking about monitoring the school lunch program and said, well, why can't we weigh the waste that goes out at the end of the day and see if it's working? Because they keep telling me there's a lot of wastage in this program because what they're offering is not what the children want.
Yeah, that food wastage issue regarding school lunch programs all across the country, they're talking about the exact same thing. I did read a story. I can't even remember if it was in Canada or somewhere else, but it was about when the students led the creation of the menu, food wastage went down by 90%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty significant number, 90%, so it's worth factoring that in. And talking about the summer and doing the hard work, when schools don't have the infrastructure, it can't be necessarily added during the course of the school year. So whether it be for small kitchen setups or, reutilizing one space or another in the school to accommodate school lunch, that can only be done in the summertime.
No, and Patty, that is one issue. I mean, some schools are not set up to offer the same school lunch program as others. But you're right, during the off summer, maybe there's something they can do to fix that, right? And I've heard other suggestions from parents, maybe if there's food establishments, nearby, maybe utilizing them. There's a lot of suggestions that have been thrown around. But, I mean, when it comes to school lunch, I mean, the whole purpose of that is to ensure kids go to school with their bellies filled and they can concentrate on their studies. And right now, judging by the comments I'm getting of the wastage, a lot of them are not going there with the full stomachs. And the parents last night actually offered some suggestions on the menu that kids would certainly eat and it was still healthy. I said, well, we need to have those talks. We need to get those messages out there because, I'd rather have the money go to a good use where it's less wastage and more benefit. And I think that needs to be discussed.
Yeah, like even where my boys went to grade school, no cafeteria, no kitchen. So how that school could ever ever accommodate in full a school lunch program. Really, it's hard to understand how that could work. You know, the grab and go concept of Kids Eat Smart, it's an easy one. You walk in the door, you grab your stuff, off to the classroom you go. But lunch is a different feature than the Kids Eat Smart program. So I'm still trying to figure out how we're going to ensure that. I know the government has targets to have it in place for some 50,000 of the 66,000-ish students. Let's see how that plan actually unfolds. Appreciate the time, Paul. Give the folks the details, the where, the when for the town hall.
Yeah, so it's tonight at Topsail United Church in Topsail, and it's 7 to 9 p.m. at the hall. We'll be discussing everything and anything. And just before I go, I do want to shout out to parents and drivers and students who are getting out of school this week. You know, be safe, be patient on the roads. We don't want the school year to end with any tragedy. Kids are running around, they're set free. It's that wonderful feeling. It's like Christmas when you get out of school. So, you know, let's just be due diligent and careful now this week as more and more kids are hitting the streets.
It'll be a different feature, traffic-wise next week, and same thing with the number of kids out on their bikes and their trikes and whatever else. Appreciate the time, Paul. Thank you.
Thanks, Paddy. All the best.
You too. Bye-bye. All right, let's take our final break of the morning. Don't go away. Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 2. Dana, you're on the air.
Good morning, Patty.
Morning.
How are you, my friend?
Very well. How about you?
That's good. I'm good. I have a 25 years ago, 2000, I started the program here at Mill Lane, 807 Water Street, Mill Lane, Evergreen Recycling.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, when I started, there was a 50-year anniversary of their being in business, recycling. And at that time, they had recycled 1 billion containers. And so at that time, we were informed that the money that we had made, that was, you know, money that we had made that we couldn't have or access, was $1 million, $1 million. That was 25 years ago. And all the interest on that and all the money that's paid beside that since then. So all that money was made by this program. So it would be illegal for that money to be taken and used for any other thing other than... anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that money has been accumulating there all this time. 25 years ago, it was $1 million. And we weren't allowed to have any of it because it was just a program. We weren't taxpayers. And unfortunately, one of the men who was working in the woodworking area cut his finger off. And he was an elderly gentleman, so he just had to leave the program and go away with no support or nothing, minus a finger. And that was when I moved to St. John's in 2000. It was Access. That was Ellen Gillis. And then from there, I went to Pleasant Manor with Steve Grimes and Karen Guju. And that's when I started at the program at Mill Lane. And I had to walk Leslie Street Hill 3 times a day, as bad as it was. And so that money is still there. If it isn't, that's a serious problem for the government. So all these years and all that money, don't you think there will be something of that money provided to people who are a part of the Mill Lane? Or do I have it wrong? Do they have any kind of legal right or maybe some class action suit against that?
I don't know, but I mean, Evergreen is a registered not-for-profit social enterprise, so they have to record that money, annual revenues, expenditures, in an audited financial statement every year. So yeah. I suppose that's a place to start.
That money has been accumulating there with revenue coming in. And 25 years ago, it was $1 million. There were 1 billion containers recycled. So that money has to still be there, or there is a legal problem for the government, right?
Possibly so. Yep.
So is it possible that the negligence of the government and the difficult circumstances that we are experiencing as street people, is it the possibility that there could be some kind of a class action suit, or am I just a delusional, paranoid schizophrenic?
Well, I'm not going to diagnose you over the air, but I appreciate the call. I'm going to see if I can find their most recent financial statement, because they have to be audited as a registered not-for-profit.
That was the Waterford Hospital in Eastern Health 25 years ago.
Okay.
And so I'm here in St. John's now, and like I said, I presented an open line about some things. And as my engine, as I refer to the engine, and until I get an expense account so that I can provide for my kids, my street people like me, until I get an expense account, nobody will ever have a rotary engine.
Yeah, even though the rotary engine has been around for quite a long time, but I remember the call.
Do you know if the rotary engine, Patty, if the rotary engine has been around for a long time, how come virtually nobody knows about it?
Well, I think people do. I mean, I do.
Not to my knowledge. I've asked all kinds of people. They don't even. Do you even know how to design a rotary engine? Do you know the design of it?
I know a little bit about it. I don't pretend to be any sort of backyard mechanic, but I know what a rotary engine is.
Well, please.
So, yeah, I'm not going to get into engineering and design of.
Well, the engineering and designing of it suggests that it won't work, but it works like a charm.
Yeah, I think even some of the major manufacturers.
That rotary engine is going to be every engine under every hood on planet Earth.
Okay.
And like I said, I'm going to get $1 for every one of them because it's my engine, Patty.
Well, take me out for lunch.
I certainly will.
Okay, thanks, Dana.
The point I'm trying to make is, until I get an expense account, nobody's getting a rotary.
Got it. Appreciate the time.
So
Take care.
You check that out, and I'll get back to you, Patty.
Okay, Dana. All
Thank
the best. All right, bye-bye. Final word this morning goes to line number 1, independent member of Mount Pearl Southlands. Let's go to line number 1. Say good morning to the independent member of Mount Pearl Southlands. That's Paul Lane. And good morning, Paul. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty. Running short on time, so I'll try to be quick. I wanted to speak about policing, but a couple of quick points I wanted to make. First of all, I listened to our seniors advocate, and while I absolutely agree with her that there's more that we need to do to try to improve the lot and life of seniors here in this province and affordability issues, I just want to say once again that I do feel the federal government is getting off the hook, and here we are as a province with limited resources. And yes, there's things we have done, more things we can probably do, and I certainly would support that. But I really think the feds are getting off the hook with OAS in terms of the amount that seniors are being provided. If they were being provided with more, perhaps the province wouldn't need to be trying to make up all these shortfalls. So that was just a quick point.
On that point, is I think the place to start is, if I had any say in the matter, is especially when we talk about eligibility for guaranteed income supplement, the threshold to be eligible hasn't changed in a long time, but the costs of living and inflationary pressures have certainly changed dramatically. So we need to up that so that we can catch 100%. More seniors with the GIS. Start with that, and then it's an annual look at what that's meant to seniors across the country. But that's the threshold. That's the key one for me.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And as I say, that would be the feds need to step up and do more. Patty, I just wanted quickly just to speak about, policing and public safety. Again, it continues to be an issue, of course. We're hearing more and more. It seems like every time you turn on the TV or the radio, you're hearing about another armed standoff somewhere. You're hearing about these big drug busts that are occurring, hearing about a lot of violent crime that we certainly, I'm not saying that we were totally immune to violent crime, but certainly I don't think anybody could argue the fact that over the last number of years it's gotten a lot worse. And I understand that the solutions is not just about policing, of course. And when we talk about social determinants of health, I would say that you could also call them the social determinants of crime as well. And there's no doubt we need to do better in terms of rehabilitation. And I understand the issues around addictions and so on. All those things are important. But with all that said, because some of these things are going to take, are longer term things and take time to fix, I still think that policing, in terms of the number of policing, continues to be an issue. I hear it certainly from people calling in about the RCMP in rural Newfoundland and Labrador, but certainly as a member from Mount Pearl Southlands in the area I represent, I hear these issues all the time in terms of the number of RNC that are on shift, boots on the ground at any given time. I do know that, there are you hear about RNC recruitment and so on and more officers, but generally they're just replacing people who are retiring, and there's no net new bodies necessarily coming into play. So, again, I would ask government to reflect on the needs that we have in our community in terms of policing, and it needs to be made a priority. And I think it has to be a very big part of the upcoming election campaign. I'm going to say it's coming. It's here. Let's face it, the campaign has already started. When the actual election day will be, who knows? But public safety and policing has to be a big part of it, and certainly in this region, we're talking RNC and, of course, rurally, of course, the RCMP as well.
Yeah, and I do think it's top of mind. I think the government is on the right track when they talk about real-time reporting of crime data as opposed to allowing the media to use headlines to display to be what the reality is. I think that's a good idea, and I'm waiting for that to start to roll. Paul, you've had the last word. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paddy. And the dashboard is fine, and I'm not against that. But at the end of the day, it's boots on the ground. When I call 911 and I need the police, then that's really, I think, the salient point for folks living certainly in my district. They want responses, and we need officers to provide those. Anyway, thank you, Paddy. Have a great day.
You too, Paul. All the best.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.
All right, good show today. Big thanks to all hands, all the callers, listeners, emailers, tweeters. You're all right. We will indeed pick up this conversation again tomorrow morning right here on VOCM and Big Land FM's Open Line. On behalf of the producer, David Williams, I'm your host, Paddy Daly. Have yourself a safe, fun, happy day. We'll talk in the morning. Bye-bye.
Having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.